Welcome back to a brand new episode of Raptors and Dragons. This week we'll be covering launches from the past and those to come, as well as Starship's turn of events, Falcon Heavy's extended wait, and Rocket Lab's return to launches. All that and so much more right here on Raptors and Dragons. As always, hit the like button and subscribe below.
SpaceX Dragon, we're go for launch. Let's light this candle.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
All right, liftoff and the clock is starting.
The shuttle has cleared the tower.
Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Houston now controlling the flight of Atlantis. The space shuttle spreads its wings one final time for the start of a sentimental journey into history.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Oh, that looks beautiful.
Last week saw Virgin Galactic's Spaceship 2 make its first launch into space in more than 2 years. Named VSS Unity, the vehicle was piloted by CJ Stuckrow and Dave McKay. Around 52 minutes into flight, during the lift phase, while being carried by White Knight 2, VSS Unity detached and fired its hybrid rocket motor for around 60 seconds. The vehicle maintained a suborbital trajectory and only reached a peak apogee of around 89.2 kilometers, before gliding unpowered back to the runway at Spaceport America. This served as the first in 4 upcoming suborbital flights by Virgin Galactic over the next few months. Around 1 p.m. on May 28th, Arianespace, through subcontracting with Roscosmos, launched the OneWeb 7 mission. Lifting off from Site 1S at the Vostochny Cosmodrome in Russia, the Soyuz 2.1B rocket deployed 32 OneWeb Internet communication satellites, boosting the total number in orbit to 218 of the planned total 648. 600 of which are for global coverage, and the remaining 48 as a backup if one were to fail. OneWeb hopes to create a satellite constellation to provide semi-low latency internet to the globe, very similar to SpaceX's Starlink constellation. Their FCC filings allow for up to 48,000 satellites in the future. OneWeb hopes to increase this network to include a global navigation satellite system like a GPS.
At around 2:59 p.m. on Wednesday, May 26, 2021, we saw the launch of Starlink 28. This was the second flight of this booster, B-1063, previously supporting Sentinel-6A mission, which took place in Vandenberg, California. The booster was successfully covered on the Just Read the Instructions drone ship, and fairings were recovered by Go Searcher and Go Navigator, setting a new fairing reuse record with the ones used on this mission, flying their 5th mission. The launch also completed the initial shell of Starlink satellites.
Launching from Launch Complex 201 at Weichang Launch Center in China, the Tianzhou mission delivered cargo to the Tianhe core module of the Tiangong space station flew aboard along March 7, setting a new launch to docking speed record of 8 hours. On board was around 9.3 thousand pounds of pressurized cargo like crew supplies and EVA suits for the future crewed missions, as well as propellant to keep the module's orbital altitude. It is unclear how long the module will remain docked, with the next Tianzhou 3 cargo mission launching later this year, in September. A manned crew is required to unload the cargo of Tianzhou 2, and could be the next step for China in the order of events of the Tiangong space station. China launched the Falcon 4B mission aboard a Long March 3B. Falcon 4B is China's latest and greatest in weather satellite technology, and was launched into a geostationary transfer orbit. It will serve as the first operational one of its class, with its predecessor, the Falcon 4A, serving as a tech demonstration and platform for suggestions. Handing it over now to Jake for some Starbase news.
So, Starbase has been on the idle side after the removal of SN15 and its descent from suborbital pad B, taking it back to the production site. SN16 is still in the high bay and has a chance of never seeing any action since the Starbase area is prepping for an orbital test which could happen no earlier than this month. There has been some action over on the orbital area with the integration tower progressively getting taller, and there's also been some work on the launch mount itself. Also, caps have been added onto the launch mount, which will eventually be topped off with the orbital launch table, where the actual Starship and Super Heavy will rest. BN 2.1 has also been put on a test stand and will start pressure testing in the coming days. Moving along, SpaceX will be launching the CRS-22 mission from Launch Complex 39A on June 3rd around 1:30 p.m. Commercial Resupply Service 22 will be the second flight for SpaceX and the Dragon 2 cargo version. This mission will also bring new solar arrays and experiments to the ISS, as well as deploy 10 CubeSats for ELENA 36 or Educational Launch of Nano Satellites program, a NASA initiative to collaborate with universities across the US to design, manufacture, and launch satellites. Launching from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral, Sirius XM8 or SXM8 will be the 12th satellite launched for the Sirius XM and the XM network, and the second in a pair developed by Space Systems Laurel. Liftoff should occur around 12:26 a.m. on June 6th. The booster supported this mission is booster B1061, previously supporting the Crew 1 and the Crew 2 mission. The SXM8 satellite is designed to have a lifespan around 15 years or longer. This payload, like the other SiriusXM satellites, will go into geostationary transfer orbit. This comes after the SXM7 launch, which after deployment had some unfixable errors and declared the satellite a total loss. And we have some breaking news with SpaceX and Falcon Heavy. The U.S. Space Force, or USSF-44, has recently announced to be pushed back to October. The official statement is saying it was to accommodate payload readiness, which means there were probably delays in the development and manufacturing of the satellite. Moving the following Falcon Heavy launch, which was USSF-52, to next year, adding up 2022's total to 5 Falcon Heavy launches, with SpaceX currently planning to launch USSF-52, Viasat-3, Psyche, USSF-67, and an Inmarsat I-6. Viasat has gone after SpaceX and the Starlink constellation in their filings with the FCC, claiming differential treatment and lack of transparency, feelings as though their filings were treated fundamentally different than SpaceX's, reporting that SpaceX will be unable to meet the coverage and capacity commitments that they made to secure the RDOF funding, something that Viasat was in competition with them for. At this time, VSX will be taking SpaceX to court on environmental grounds, and they are also wanting to halt the Starlink production. Now let's hand it back over to Mason for some more breaking news and to close out this week's podcast.
New Zealand and South Korea have become the newest two nations to join the Artemis Accords, a US-led document that governs the best practices for space exploration activities, outlining a set of principles for safe and sustainable space exploration activities, creating transparency and interoperability to exchange of scientific data. New Zealand is interested in the part of the document that outlines the utilization of space resources. Nanya Mahutma, New Zealand Foreign Minister, said in a statement, "While existing international law provides high-level rules around the utilization of resources, we see a need for additional rules or standards to ensure the conservation and long-term sustainability of these resources. The Artemis Accords are an important first step in that regard." End quote. With many other space law topics to be covered in the 2-week UN Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space, which started on May 31st. While Rocket Lab is still working to resolve the issue that led to the failure of their second stage, the FAA has approved them to resume launches. Rocket Lab Chief Executive Peter Beck said that the problem was, quote, "a complex failure requiring an intricate and layered failure analysis," end quote. Rocket Lab simulations have proven that for something like this to happen, multiple anomalies have had to occur. They're still hopeful for a swift return to flight. Thank you so much for listening to our 4th episode of the Raptors and Dragons podcast. We really hope you enjoyed this week's launch recap and news stories. We'd love to hear your feedback in the comments below. As always, remember to like and subscribe, and from our home to yours, we go for launch. We'll see you next time, fellow space nerds and Texas Tank Watchers.